Mom, we've talked about this, Lucas said, his voice tight with practiced patience. You need to manage your expenses better. I can't keep bailing you out every time you overspend. He said it like he was doing me a favor. In my hand was the winning ticket, $400 million tucked behind years of heartbreak and sacrifice. And all I could do was smile. Because in that moment, he didn't just hang up a call. He failed a test he never knew he was taking. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're tuning in from. Because you're about to hear how I, a 65-year-old widow named Martha Reynolds, spent my days in a quiet neighborhood, struggling to be seen, until one Tuesday morning changed everything. Martha Reynolds, 65, had once been a warm and spirited woman known for her humming in the kitchen and her Sunday pot roasts that fed half the block. But now, the world had grown quiet around her. A widow for over a decade. She spent her days in a cramped apartment 2 blocks from the neighborhood where her children now lived, in homes with marble countertops and walk-in closets, none of which she had ever been invited to see. She sat on her worn-out armchair by the window, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug of instant coffee. Outside, autumn leaves danced along the sidewalk, the wind dragging them into tiny whirlpools. She watched the world pass by like a ghost inside her own life. She hadn't spoken to her son Lucas in 3 weeks, and her daughter Claire hadn't visited in nearly 2 months. Texts went unanswered. Calls were met with hurried excuses or silent rejections. Her refrigerator hummed louder than the people in her life. She turned on the small radio beside her chair, tuning in to a local station. The familiar voice of the host announced, "And now, tonight's winning numbers for the $400 million Mega Lotto draw." Martha didn't even flinch. She reached into her sweater pocket, pulling out the crumpled ticket she'd bought 3 days ago at the gas station around the corner. She'd been buying tickets for years out of ritual, not hope. It was her weekly indulgence, the price of a dream she no longer believed in. She read the numbers aloud along with the radio. 17, 26, 33, 41, 44, and the mega ball is 7. She stared at her ticket. 17, 26, 33, 41, 44, 7. Her hand trembled. The silence in the room stretched until it hummed in her ears. She checked again and again. The same 6 numbers blinked back at her like a secret trying to burst free. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply leaned back in the chair. Her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and overwhelming calm. 400 million, she whispered, and not a soul to tell. She imagined Lucas's face if she told him. He'd probably joke first, ask if she was joking, then ask how much she planned to give him. Claire would probably start crying on cue, weaving a tale about school tuitions and therapy bills and needing a bigger car. Martha folded the ticket and tucked it into the pages of a Bible on the bookshelf. She hadn't opened that book in years. She walked to her tiny kitchen, pulled out the last of her canned soup, and heated it on the stove. No celebration, no champagne, just soup and solitude. That night, she lay in bed with the lights off, the ticket glowing in her mind. She thought about all the holidays she spent alone, the times she dropped off gifts no one unwrapped, the grandbaby birthdays she was never invited to, the missed anniversaries, the empty voicemails. As the clock struck midnight, she made a decision. She picked up her phone and texted both of her children. "Can you help me pay rent this month? I'm short, just a few hundred." Then she turned off the phone and went to sleep. In the darkness, a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Let's see what I'm worth. The next morning, Martha's phone buzzed as she stirred her coffee. Her hands moved slowly, not because of age, but because she already knew what was waiting. Lucas had replied first, short, clinical, and devoid of warmth. Lucas: "Mom, we've talked about this. You need to manage your expenses better. I can't keep bailing you out. Love you." A second buzz came as she was folding laundry. Claire: "Mom, I wish I could help. But things are tight right now. School stuff for the kids. Maybe $50 next week? Also, please don't make this a habit. Martha let the phone fall on the couch. She stood for a long moment, her eyes fixed on a family photo from 20 years ago. Lucas in his college gown, Claire in braces, Martha behind them, hands on their shoulders. The woman in the photo had believed in unconditional love. Her lips barely moved as she whispered, "That woman died a long time ago." She picked up the phone, opened her bank app, and stared at her balance, still showing less than $90. But that wouldn't be the case for long. Martha slipped on her coat, stepped out into the crisp morning, and took the city bus to the lottery headquarters, a plain glass building that suddenly felt like the door to another dimension. She walked in alone, clutching the ticket like a secret. "Ms. Reynolds," the clerk said after checking the numbers. "Congratulations. You've won $4 billion. Martha's face didn't move. "Please keep my identity confidential, and I want the full amount. No lump sum." The clerk blinked. "Ma'am, most people opt for a reduced payout." "I'm not most people," she replied. A few hours later, she sat in the quiet corner of a private bank, signing paperwork, nodding slowly as her newly hired wealth manager explained international holdings, blind trusts, and discrete asset transfers. By evening, her life was legally unrecognizable. Back home, she microwaved frozen peas and sat beside the same window, her tattered slippers brushing the cold linoleum floor. She took a photo of her dinner, sent it to Lucas and Claire. "Martha, thanks for the help. Made it work. Peas for dinner." No reply. The next morning, someone knocked on her door. It was Liam, his backpack slung over one shoulder, holding a small paper bag. "Grandma, I brought you the muffins you like," he said, stepping inside. Martha blinked at him, unsure if she could trust her own emotions. He set the bag on her table, then opened the fridge, saw the emptiness, and looked at her. "They know you're struggling? Mom? Uncle Lucas?" Martha smiled gently. "I asked. And? They reminded me I need to budget better." Liam didn't say anything. He sat beside her, pulled out a muffin, and broke it in half. "Then I guess it's you and me now," he said. Martha leaned her head gently against his. She didn't tell him about the billions. Not yet. The next morning, Martha stood in front of a real estate office window, her eyes fixed on a listing. A $25 million mansion in the gated neighborhood where Lucas and Claire lived. "Let's begin," she whispered. Martha sat across from a high-powered realtor in a sleek office lined with glass and chrome. The woman eyed Martha skeptically, glancing at her thrift store coat and modest handbag. "This listing starts at $25 million, the agent said politely. "We do require proof of funds before we can schedule a walkthrough." Martha slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside, a single-page letter from her private banker confirming liquid assets exceeding $4 billion. The agent blinked, then blinked again. "Would you like champagne?" she stammered. Martha smiled. "I'll take a black coffee, with cream." Within 2 hours, Martha toured the mansion next door to Lucas's home. It was a modern palace, glass walls, a wine cellar, a 14-car garage. Every step echoed with quiet power. She paused at the floor-to-ceiling window that looked directly over Lucas's back patio. A pair of lawn chairs and an old grill sat in full view. "Perfect," she whispered. By the end of the week, she had paid in full. No mortgage, no fuss. Papers signed. The house was hers. But she didn't move in just yet. Instead, she quietly hired a team. Interior designers, architects, stylists, estate managers, security staff. Over the next month, the house transformed into something out of a billionaire lifestyle magazine. She took up residence at a luxury hotel downtown in the meantime, and every day she transformed too. Her gray hair was colored to a soft silver blonde. her wardrobe replaced with elegant neutrals, silks, statement jackets. She wasn't chasing youth, she was embodying power. But through it all, she remained quiet. She told no one, except Liam. He stood in her hotel suite one afternoon, speechless as she broke the news. "Grandma, you're a billionaire?" She nodded calmly, pouring him a soda from the minibar. "Yes, and not a word to anyone, not even your mother." He sat on the edge of the velvet couch, stunned. "Why didn't you tell them?" Martha's gaze turned to the skyline beyond the window. "Because they already showed me who they are. Now I want to show them who I am." Liam lowers his voice and confesses. "Mom's been talking about putting you in a senior care facility. Says it's time. She wants to clear out your apartment." Martha let the silence hang in the air. Then she rose, calm and regal. "Let her come knocking," she said. "She won't recognize the door?" Lucas stood in his home office, coffee in hand, staring through the blinds at the chaos unfolding next door. 3 black SUVs, 2 moving trucks, and what looked like a design crew were unloading. He squinted. Was that a butler? And a marble lion statue? Claire, meanwhile, was on the phone with her best friend, pacing by her kitchen island. "No, I swear, someone just bought the place. Cash. They say it was over asking, like 28 million. A moving man rang the doorbell at Martha's new home, clipboard in hand. A moment later, the grand double doors opened, and there she stood. Martha Reynolds. Hair curled, lipstick on, dressed in a cream-colored suit and designer sunglasses. Calm, regal, unbothered. Lucas dropped his mug. Claire dropped her jaw. "Mom!" Martha turned slowly, removed her sunglasses, and looked directly at them across the hedge line. She gave a single nod and walked back inside. Over the next few days, the mystery only deepened. The neighborhood group chat buzzed. "Is she a retired movie star?" "I heard she's old money." Someone saw a Bentley parked outside. Martha remained silent. She oversaw landscaping changes, white roses, stone fountains, a koi pond. She held meetings with architects in the garden. And every evening, Liam came over with a backpack and stayed for hours. Claire cornered him one afternoon. "Why are you visiting her so much?" "Because she's the only one in this family who treats people with respect," he said. Lucas tried to call Martha. She sent it to voicemail. Claire texted, "Why didn't you tell us you moved here? What's going on?" Martha replied simply, "I thought you were too busy to be involved in my life." That Sunday, a silver invitation arrived at both Claire and Lucas's doorstep, hand-delivered with gold-embossed lettering. "You are cordially invited to a neighborhood brunch hosted by Mrs. Martha Reynolds." Martha's estate glowed under the Sunday sun, its front lawn draped in ivory tents and hanging chandeliers. Tables were set with white linen and crystal glasses. A string quartet played under a flowering trellis. Lucas and Claire arrived fashionably late, walking side by side, both overdressed and anxious. They hadn't spoken since the invitation came. At the gate, a sharply dressed attendant checked the guest list. "Lucas Reynolds and Claire Reynolds? I'm sorry, I don't see you on the confirmed RSVP list." Claire blanched. "She invited us, personally." "One moment," the man said, and whispered something into a Bluetooth headset. Seconds later, the front doors opened and Martha appeared. "Let them in," she said calmly. "I'd hate to be rude." They followed the attendant up the stone path and into the garden where nearly 50 guests mingled. Local socialites, philanthropists, influencers. Claire gasped. "Is that the mayor?" Martha gave a short toast. "Thank you for joining me. When I moved in, I wanted to bring more grace and gratitude to this beautiful neighborhood. I believe in new beginnings." Lucas and Claire hovered at the edge of the party, unacknowledged. No one greeted them. Later, Claire approached Martha privately. Why didn't you tell us you were moving next door, or that you were hosting this event? Martha raised her glass. I didn't think you'd be interested. You didn't seem to care about my last place. Lucas stepped in. Mom, be serious. Where did this come from? You were broke a month ago. Things change, she replied with a smile. Isn't that what you always told me? The press caught a photo of Martha with the mayor, then with a tech mogul, then cutting a 3-tiered cake shaped like a white rose. Lucas and Claire left quietly, ignored. That night, a news segment aired. Local billionaire matriarch hosts secret brunch. Who is Martha Reynolds? The footage showed Martha laughing with power players. In the background, Lucas and Claire looked like confused guests. The caption below read, Once forgotten, now unforgettable. In the days after the brunch, Lucas and Claire scrambled to adjust to their mother's transformation. Their neighbors whispered. The media coverage kept airing. Suddenly, being the child of Martha Reynolds meant something. And they weren't in control of the narrative. Lucas called first. Mom, just checking in. Thought we could grab coffee, talk about things. Martha replied with a cordial, I'm quite busy this week, but perhaps next month? Claire tried a different tactic. She showed up unannounced with a bottle of wine. You never used to like Chardonnay, Martha said at the door, cool and unmoving. Well, Claire said with a tight smile, people change. That they do. Over the next week, both Lucas and Claire made repeated attempts to inch their way back into Martha's life. Lucas brought up a real estate project he was struggling to get funding for. Claire hinted at the stress of balancing her kids' schedules with household costs. Martha listened. Polite, blank, velvet words with iron underneath. Then came the family dinner. Claire organized it. Sent engraved invitations, made it public, hired a private chef, told Martha it would be a small family affair. Martha arrived in a silk cape and diamond brooch. She knew what this was, a photo opportunity. She played along. The dinner began with laughter and old stories. Claire made sure the cameras caught them smiling. Until dessert. Claire lifted her glass. To our mother, who proves it's never too late to bloom. Martha stood, holding her fork. And to the children who only came watering after the garden grew. Silence. Martha gently placed her napkin on the table and left. The next day, social media was ablaze. Video clips from the dinner, side-by-side comparisons of Martha's old apartment and her new mansion. The public sided with her. Liam entered her study that evening, pale. He held up his phone. You need to see this, he said. It was a leaked voicemail. Lucas, furious, ranting to a friend. She's just an old bat with money. If she doesn't cut us in, I swear I'll take her to court. The next morning, Martha sat quietly at her grand piano, fingers drifting over the keys without pressing them. Her reflection in the polished surface looked unrecognizable, regal, distant, aware. Lucas's voicemail had shattered the final illusion. There was no love in his return, only strategy. She had seen it before, masked as guilt, dressed in nostalgia. Liam sat across from her, watching. What are you going to do? She smiled faintly. Absolutely nothing. Let them come. Let them show who they are. Later that day, Claire arrived at her mansion, face pale and teary-eyed. She held the leaked recording on her phone. I didn't know he said those things. I swear, Mom, I'm not like him. I just want to make things right. Martha offered her a seat. Claire wept dramatically. Apologies spilled with precision. Martha handed her a tissue, but said nothing. You have no idea what it's like. Claire sniffled. You abandoned us in your new life. You turned your back on family. Martha tilted her head. Funny. That's exactly what it felt like on my birthday 2 years ago when no one called. Not even you. Claire flinched. I made a mistake, she said. Can we move forward? You may, Martha said, rising, but without my money and without my trust. Lucas came later that evening. No apologies. Just indignation. You think you're better than us now? Is that it? You embarrassed us publicly. No, Lucas, she replied. I merely gave you the rope. You chose how to use it. He grew red, jaw tight. You won't get away with this. What exactly am I getting away with? Surviving you? She turned away. That night, she called her lawyers. Prepare to revoke access to all family trusts. Freeze any pending gifts to Lucas and Claire, and double Liam's. The next day, an envelope arrived from an anonymous source. Inside, a typed note. We know what you did with the money. Let's talk. A reporter. The envelope was thick, expensive paper. The handwriting on the address label was typed, but precise. Inside was a card, crisp, cream-colored, with a printed line in bold. We know what you did with the money. Let's talk. A reporter. Martha sat by her bay window, the card pressed between her fingers. The audacity of it, the arrogance. Her phone rang 2 hours later. Mrs. Reynolds? This is Sadie Torres. I'm a journalist with the Ledger. I'd like to offer you an opportunity to tell your side of the story before your children, or anyone else, does it for you. Martha didn't respond, just listened. Your rise from neglected mother to anonymous billionaire has made waves, Sadie continued. People are curious, and someone has started leaking things. False things. We'd like to give you control of the narrative. Martha set a meeting, not because she felt threatened, but because she saw an opportunity. They met at a quiet rooftop lounge. Sadie was sharp, respectful, and informed. If you don't speak, Sadie said, your son's version will become the truth. Martha sipped her tea. Then we better give them something better. The next week, she worked privately with Sadie and her team. Photos from her modest apartment, grocery lists, voicemails left by Lucas and Claire. Her story was undeniable. Meanwhile, Liam helped her digitize everything. He uncovered something that stopped Martha cold. Grandma, this is Mom's financial record. She took out a life insurance policy on you. Months ago. Martha stared at the screen. A policy dated 6 months prior, signed and authorized, with Claire listed as sole beneficiary. It wasn't illegal, but it was brutal. Claire had been preparing for Martha's death, not her survival. This won't be just a story anymore, Martha told Sadie. It will be a reckoning. Sadie smiled. That's what readers love. The final article draft landed in Martha's inbox. Title: She raised them with love, they left her for dead. Then she won everything. She read it twice, then hit approve. The article exploded. Social media ignited. Martha Reynolds, billionaire grandma who hid in plain sight. Comment sections buzzed with support. Talk shows debated the ethics of neglecting aging parents. Hashtags trended. Respect your elders and Martha Reynolds was right, but with attention came risk. Liam was walking home from school when a man in a car slowed beside him. Liam, right? I'm from Central Magazine. Big opportunity here. Mind answering a few questions about your grandmother's will? Liam froze. The man wasn't press. He was someone hired to sniff around. Maybe worse. He ran home. Martha met him at the door. He explained everything. She called her lawyer. We need to tighten security, and Liam needs protection. That night, Claire showed up, alone. He's my son. I have a right to know who you have around him. Martha stepped aside. You had the right to care years ago. Now you have the right to stay out. He's underage. If something happens, he's safer here than in a house with a mother who bet on his grandmother's death. Claire turned white. She knew. Martha knew about the policy. Claire left without another word. Later, Liam admitted he had been contacted by a legal advisor claiming to represent Lucas. "He wants me to testify that you're mentally unstable, Grandma. If I do, he says I can keep my college fund." Martha stood in silence for a moment. "And what did you say, sweetheart?" Liam lifted his chin. "I told him to rot." Martha embraced him. The next morning, a formal court summons arrived. Lucas had filed to petition for financial conservatorship over Martha's estate. The court date arrived under flashing cameras and national attention. Lucas strutted in with a high-powered attorney and a smug grin. He had filed for conservatorship, claiming Martha was mentally unfit to manage her sudden wealth and had been manipulated by outsiders like Liam. Martha, wearing a deep blue pantsuit and pearls, walked into the courthouse with Liam and Sadie Torres, the journalist who broke her story. The courtroom buzzed. Reporters filled the back row. Lucas's lawyer opened aggressively. "Your Honor, we are concerned for the well-being of Mrs. Reynolds. She has made erratic financial decisions, has no prior wealth management experience, and appears to be under the influence of a teenager and media personnel." Martha's lawyer, calm and unshaken, stood. "We will demonstrate that Mrs. Reynolds has made thoughtful, legal, and philanthropic decisions with her own funds, and has been the subject of emotional exploitation, not the other way around." The trial was brutal. Lucas presented old videos of Martha forgetting things. Claire tearfully testified that her mother had always struggled with boundaries. But then Martha took the stand. She spoke clearly, confidently. She shared details about her holdings, her trusts, her donations, her foundation work. She even corrected her lawyer once. Then Liam was called. The judge allowed it. He spoke calmly, passionately. "My grandmother has more clarity, strength, and dignity than anyone I know. She's not the one who needs to be watched." The courtroom was silent. Sadie published a running commentary from the gallery, and it went viral. During cross-examination, Claire cracked. She admitted under pressure that Lucas convinced her to sign power of attorney transfer documents months earlier in preparation to seize Martha's estate. The judge dismissed the case, harshly. This was not about care or concern. It was about greed. "Mrs. Reynolds, you are free to live your life. Mr. Reynolds, consider yourself publicly cautioned." As cameras flashed outside the courthouse, Martha took Liam's hand and whispered, "Now we go bigger." The court victory left Martha vindicated, but not victorious. Public sympathy surged, but the bitterness in her blood hadn't left. She was grateful to the world, but her children's betrayal still gnawed deep. She invited Liam for dinner that night. Just the two of them. "I thought I'd feel relieved," she confessed. "But all I feel is clean, as if I washed something off." "Not healed?" Liam nodded. "That's how it begins." Meanwhile, Lucas and Claire retreated. Their social circles had thinned. Real estate deals fell through. Claire's PTA presidency was temporarily reassigned. But they weren't done. Lucas called Liam. "Son, I want to talk, without Grandma involved. Just us." Liam agreed to meet him in a public park. Hidden microphone in his jacket. Martha's idea. Lucas tried to play the father card, the sympathy script. Then the threats came. "If you think she's safe, you're wrong. You know people. Everyone has a price. If I don't get cut in, neither do you." Martha and her legal team heard every word. The next morning, Martha filed a permanent restraining order and released the audio to the press. Claire responded with a press statement. "I was manipulated by my brother. I've severed ties with him. I hope to rebuild with my mother." Martha didn't buy it. She turned down all interview requests, but her silence only deepened the mystique. Fan pages formed. Team Martha became a movement for elder respect. At a charity gala, Liam whispered to Martha, "Mom wants to see you, one-on-one. She's serious this time." Martha agreed to meet Claire. The setting was neutral. A quiet tea house outside town with no press, no staff, no security detail. Just the two of them. No distractions. Claire looked tired. Her designer clothes hung looser now. Her hands trembled when she lifted the teacup. "I didn't know how bad I had gotten," she said. "The money blinded me. The pressure, it turned me into someone I don't recognize." Martha listened, calm, silent. "I wanted things from you instead of being with you. I know that now. I wish I could undo it." "You can't," Martha said softly. Claire reached across the table. "I miss you. I miss who we were. Please, Mom, I don't want your money. I want another chance." Martha studied her. "Claire, if I weren't wealthy right now, if I were still in that cold apartment eating canned soup, would you be sitting here?" Claire broke. "No," she admitted. "But I want to change that." Martha nodded. It was the most honest thing she'd heard in months. They parted without hugs, but without bitterness. That night, Martha burned her old journals. Every page written in loneliness, every entry begging for love that never came. Liam found her on the patio, watching the fire. "It smells like campfire," he joked. "It smells like closure," she said. In the mail the next morning, Martha received a notice. Her old apartment building, the one she once begged for rent help to stay in, was being torn down, replaced by condos. Unless someone bought the land first. Martha stood outside her old apartment building, weathered bricks, rusted mailboxes, a place full of forgotten nights and muffled tears. She remembered the winter the heat went out, the summer she ate crackers for dinner, the time she asked Lucas for help with rent and got silence. Now it was all being flattened to make way for glass condos, unless someone stopped it. Martha called her real estate advisor. "I want to buy the entire block, not just the building, everything." It was a bold move, emotional, and very public. 2 weeks later, headlines read, "Billionaire Martha Reynolds buys her old apartment complex, plans to convert into free housing for seniors." TV crews returned to the neighborhood. Reporters interviewed former tenants who remembered her. People cried. One elderly woman said, "She's giving us what no one ever did, dignity." Lucas saw the headlines. So did Claire. Neither were mentioned in the press release. At the groundbreaking ceremony, Martha stood beside Liam in a white pantsuit and hard hat. She gave a short speech. "I lived here when no one remembered me, so I will remember everyone who still lives like I did. This isn't a business venture, it's redemption." Liam clapped the loudest. After the ceremony, Liam handed her a small velvet box. "It's not your birthday, but open it." Inside was a vintage key pendant. "You unlocked everything. This is to remind you, never forget what you survived." Weeks passed. The senior housing project began construction. Martha had become a quiet symbol of second chances, of power reclaimed, of love defended. But inside, she still carried a quiet ache. Claire sent letters now, honest ones, each signed with, "I don't deserve forgiveness. I only hope for peace." Martha read every one. Lucas remained silent, bitter, a closed door she no longer tried to knock on. One afternoon, Martha took Liam to a quiet lake outside the city. "I used to come here when I was younger," she said, "before I had kids, before life hardened." Liam sat beside her. "Do you wish it all happened differently?" Martha looked at the water. "No, because then I wouldn't have learned how strong I am. And I wouldn't have you." She reached into her bag and handed Liam a sealed envelope. "What's this?" "It's my final letter, to Lucas. I won't send it, but I wanted to write it. Not for him, for me." She threw a pebble into the lake. Forgiveness isn't about letting them in. It's about letting the pain out. Later that evening, She burned the letter, and with it, the last of her anger. Liam received a call the next morning. Your grandmother has just been nominated for the National Lifetime Contribution Award. She's invited to speak at the Capitol. The Capitol was grand. Marble floors, gold leaf ceilings, and polished history. Martha stood backstage in a navy gown, the letter of nomination in her hand. Liam stood beside her, straightening her shawl. You sure you want to do this? He asked. She smiled. This time, the mic is mine. When her name was called, thunderous applause filled the room. The crowd rose. Lawmakers, journalists, celebrities, all on their feet. Martha approached the podium. No notes, no teleprompter. She looked out over the crowd, and then straight ahead, into every living room across America watching the broadcast. There was a time I believed being quiet was the price of love. That if I didn't ask for much, I wouldn't be a burden. I lived in that silence for decades. She paused. The room leaned in. Then I won the lottery. But the real prize wasn't the money. It was the mirror. I saw what love should look like, and what it never was. She spoke of dignity, survival, and the quiet lives of elder women erased by their own children. She spoke of reclaiming narrative. They asked why I didn't tell anyone, why I pretended to be broke. The answer is simple. I wanted to know who saw me, without a price tag. She turned toward Liam. Only one did. The room erupted in applause. Liam stood, tearful. Martha established the Reynolds Foundation, dedicated to elder advocacy, education for caregivers, and protecting financial independence for seniors. Lucas disappeared from headlines. Claire volunteered quietly at the new senior housing project. Liam graduated with honors and took over part of the foundation. And Martha? She moved to a lakeside cottage, quiet, powerful, free. I was never invisible, they just refused to see. Now I live in full view, and I'm not going anywhere.